Alright, hello, we're here with a deck Teck. This is kind of a little bit of a brew off of an existing deck, Death and Taxes, sometimes called Hate Bears. Basically, I wanted to run a Bant version. Might be better with just blue-white, I don't know, I haven't quite got that all figured out yet, but the big reason is I want to play Meddling Mage. As Meddling Mage enters the battlefield, name a non-land card. Name card can't be cast. Just feels like it fits into this shell. And so then I was trying to think, well, how am I going to get lethal through with this deck? And so we're playing Noble Hierarch and Kasali Pride Mage to get the Exalted triggers. We have Anafenza to bolster when creatures enter the battlefield. Since we're playing a large number of creatures, 30, we should get plenty of triggers off of that. And the other reason we want green is for Gavin Township. So put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control. So pretty much almost all creatures. We have Aether Vial and Path to Exile. Everything else is a creature in the main board. Noble Hierarch just helps us ramp into potentially turn 3 Vryn Wingmere, which is basically a flying version of Thalia. And potentially Aven Mind Sensor can catch somebody on a fetch early. Against an early aggro deck, there's a chance that you might hit an Eidolon of Rhetoric. And otherwise, our turn 1 drops are what we're going for. Turn 1 is Aether Vial. Dry Militant just gives us, an early aggressor, and also hates on Graveyard, which is good. Judge's Familiar, which can be sacrificed to counter a target instant or spell, which can be very useful, especially when you're already taxing their ability to cast it due to non-creature spells costing 1 or more to cast from Thalia and Vryn Wingmere. This is just an extra way to potentially punish your opponent, and you can sneak it in with Aether Vial at the end of your second turn, sometimes when they try and use removal on your creature. So those are the 1-drops, and we're running Cavern of Souls to help us with the colors, which is also a way to help beat counter magic. That and Aether Vial. We pretty much are getting Aether Vial up to 2 and then just leaving it there. Leonin Arbiter, our players can't search libraries. Any player may pay 2 for that player to ignore the effect until the end of turn. We are playing 4 Windswept Teeth to go get different lands, but I found that trying to play without the fetches was a little more difficult, so that's where we are on that. The Thalia Guardian we already talked about. I'm only running 3 over the 4 that's most commonly run because she's legendary, and while she is amazing, or can be very amazing in some matchups, the fact that she is legendary led me to want to just stick to 3. Very common thing for me, at least, with early drops. Or legendary in general. Very few legendaries that I play 3 of. Kasali Pride Mage, or more than 3 of, rather. Kasali Pride Mage just gives us access to destroy an artifact or enchantment, and again, is another Exalted trigger. Spellskite can be a cheap blocker, and again, helps us shut down some other decks. So, those are our 2-drops, and Aven Mind Sensor, that's going to stop players from searching their library. Primarily, this is going to be brought in, ideally flashed in when somebody tries to and not that they can't search their library, but they can only search the top 4 cards. But the goal is that ideally you're snagging them on a fetch. Some decks are going to search for a key card, like with Court of Calling, and you can bring it in for that. Eidolon of Rhetoric. Each player can't cast more than 1 spell each turn. Typically, we're not going to have an issue with that because we're Aether Vialing in a creature, which gets around Eidolon. But it can really slow down our opponents if they're trying to snap into another Snapcaster into another spell, etc. And again, Vren Wingmare, the 1 more cost flying non-first strike version of Thalia. So that's where we are. And sideboard, we have some hate, Stony Silence hates against Tron, Affinity, etc. Kataki hates against the same sort of decks. Rest in Peace, Graveyard decks. Grafdigger's Cage helps against Graveyard decks. Firewalker, Kitchen Finks both help against Burn. Excuse me. And other aggro decks for Kitchen Finks. Eidolon of Rhetoric, just in case we want to get a second in there for that. Mirror Crusader against BG decks, Jund, etc. And Leyline of Vitality, we're bringing those in on decks where we're worried about post-board sweepers, like Anger of the Gods can just wreck this deck, and so sometimes you can get some of those in there between that and an Anafenza trigger or Cavany Township. Sometimes you can get yourself out of that range. And may not be the best, but I don't know. For some reason, I love this card. Also helps against Burn. And we play 3 just because we're trying to increase our odds of getting one in the opening hand. Torpor Orb helps against quite a bit, but primarily right now, Splinter Twin, or it'll slow down a deck like Amulet Bloom if you can stick that before they get to their prime time and things like that. So we're gonna run this out, give this a shot, but that's the deck tech on this Bant Death and Taxes.